Alright guys, it's me, your boy, Bear Hills, back for another video. Today we're going to cover 5 misconceptions and myths about fungi and mushrooms. Number 1, mushrooms and fungi in general are plants, or they are related to plants. Incorrect. Fungi are their own separate kingdom. You've heard of the animal kingdom and you've heard of the plant kingdom. Well, fungi are completely separate from that. And in fact, 1.5 billion years ago, animals and fungi split off from a common ancestor. And they did this 9 million years after plants did, meaning that fungi are actually more closely related to animals than they are to plants. Which sounds crazy, but mushrooms, fungi, take in oxygen and respire CO2, just like we do, and all of the animal kingdom does, which is the opposite of what plants do, of course. They take in CO2 and respire oxygen. So when you're walking past a tree in the woods and you see a little mushroom underneath it, you are more closely related to that mushroom than the tree that it is sat under. We actually share about 50% of our DNA with fungi. Number 2, the mushroom that you find when you're walking through the woods or a field or wherever it may be is the entire fungus. That somehow a seed of some sort has landed and the mushroom has popped up as a result of that. That is completely false. The mushroom is only the fruiting body of the fungus, no different to an apple on a tree. The main body of the fungus itself is the mycelium, which is a root-like network made up of hyphae, which is a tube-like structure, which are microscopic, and that will be spread out underneath the ground, inside the rotting tree that the mushroom's growing on, or whatever the substrate may be. The mushroom itself will only pop up at certain times of the year when the conditions are right, so that the fungus can release spores and reproduce. The mycelium is there most of the year, if not all of the year, depending on obviously the species, breaking down the organic material, creating the energy, getting ready for the perfect time for it to send the mushroom up and reproduce. Number 3, that handling toxic, poisonous mushrooms with your bare hands is dangerous. Completely false. You need to actually ingest a poisonous mushroom for it to harm you. It cannot harm you through your skin. I've handled many poisonous mushrooms and I'm still here. Some people even dare to nibble, chew and spit out some of the deadly amanitas like the death cap. And as long as you spit out all of it, you're completely fine. Again, because you need to ingest the mushroom for it to be poisonous. Now, of course, I highly recommend against any of you trying such a nibble and spit test. And the textbook advice is to always wash your hands after handling anything toxic before you eat. But I'll be honest, if you're out in the woods and you've got a bit of packed lunch, you know, I usually don't worry about it, but I'm obliged to tell you so. But yes, don't be afraid of poisonous mushrooms. It's completely fine to touch them, just don't eat them. A caveat to that though, is that this does not apply to plants. There are indeed plants that can harm you quite badly from touching them. For example, giant hogweed, which will blister your skin quite severely if it comes into contact with the sun. But that's for another video altogether. Number 4, there are general rules of thumb which enable you to know which species are edible and which species are poisonous without actually knowing exactly what species or genus that mushroom is. It's completely false. Despite what people say, like for example, if it's bright red, it's deadly. If it has pores instead of gills, it's safe to eat. Some mushrooms that are red are fine to eat. some mushrooms that have pores instead of gills can kill you. So you do need to know exactly which species a mushroom is before you intend on eating it. Now there are some exceptions, like with the Russula genus, for example, they're quite hard to distinguish between the species, so people have to do a nibble and spit test, because there are no deadly Russulas in Europe, at least, that I know of, and the worst that one will do is make you sick, but that's because of the very strong peppery taste which burns your tongue. So people do a nibble, spit it out and it burns their tongue, they don't eat it. But this is not recommended for beginners, because it's very easy to confuse young Amanitas with young Russula for a beginner anyway. And obviously Amanita, the Amanita genus, contains some of the most deadly fungi on the planet. So I don't need to explain why that's a bad idea. But as a blanket rule for anyone that's just starting out, only eat a fungus, a mushroom, if you are 100% sure of its identity. It's not worth risking your life over a mushroom. And finally, number 5, picking a mushroom damages or even kills the fungus. False. As we covered in point 2, the mushroom is only the fruiting body of the fungus. It is no worse than picking fruit from a tree. And in fact, for an easy comparison, if we compare it to a tree, when you pick the mushroom, the tree is still there, i.e. the mycelium. The mycelium is still underground. Now, of course, the purpose of a mushroom is to spread spores so that the fungus can reproduce. But chances are, by the time you've picked the mushroom, it's already spread a large portion of its spores. And if you're sensible and use a container with holes in, i.e. a wicker basket or a mesh or net bag, as you walk through the forest with your bag of mushrooms, you are actually helping the spores be spread across the forest or the field or wherever it may be that you are foraging. So you are potentially spreading the spores even further than they would have been spread if you had just left the mushroom in situ. So no pick shaming, okay? I know this is a big thing online, I won't have it on here. No pick shaming, unless of course it's a protected species like lion's mane, for example, but that's another story. In general, it's completely fine to pick mushrooms, even if you don't intend on eating them, you just want to have a look. Don't worry about it, pick it, it's completely fine. Right, I hope I've helped clear up some common myths and misconceptions about fungi and mushrooms. If you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and if you want to see more content like this, smash the subscribe button. If you have any suggestions for videos you'd like me to make, put them down in the comments section, and until next time, much love.